Police Survivors' 11th Annual Blue Light Gala. For those joining us for the first time tonight, thank you. And for those who have been here all weekend, I hope you've enjoyed the time socializing with others who understand what you're going through. For those who don't know me, my name is Heather Ritter, the president of Central Florida Cops, and the surviving child of Sergeant Nicholas Satilli, who was killed in line of duty January 12, 2007. That day, I unknowingly became a part of this chapter, which also encompasses 13 counties of Central Florida. I may have become a part of this chapter, but it took almost 10 years for me to be introduced and become a member of this chapter, and I have Virginia Coatrix to thank for that. I think a lot of people have a lot to thank her for that. Because of that delay, I wasn't able to utilize the other survivors or the hands-on programs in a way to help my grieving process or how to cope with losing my dad so tragically. Now I get to see firsthand how important it is to surround yourself with solid support system who knows exactly what you're going through to help you find your new normal. Every year our chapter holds an annual Blue Light Retreat weekend filled with events where survivors get to socialize and honor our loved ones. The idea of a Blue Light Gala came from Project Blue Light, which began in 1989 when Dolly Craig wrote to National Cops and informed them that she had placed 2 candles, blue candles, in her window. One blue candle was for her son-in-law who was killed in line of duty, and one was for her daughter who was killed in an automobile accident. Cops adopted this tradition as a way for everyone to honor our officers who serve and protect us, while remembering those who have died in the line of duty. Our chapter takes us a step further, and we come together for a whole weekend as a family to honor our loved ones. I, as chapter president, am so proud of what we have been able to accomplish, not only as survivors, but also as volunteers, since we all have other jobs. In 2022 alone, our chapter had fully funded and sent over 25 survivors to hands-on programs to help them meet others who understand their type of loss and aid them in their grieving process. Our hands-on programs aid in helping our survivors find their new normal. We were able to send 10 returning survivor families to the State Memorial in Tallahassee, as well as fully fund not 1, but 2 National Police Weeks in less than a 12-month period due to COVID. We unfortunately added 11 new families to our chapter in 2020, whose loved ones were added to the National Wall in October of 21, and in May of 2022, we added another 5 families and had 7 returning families join. So on behalf of every survivor in this room, we thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the financial support for our chapter. Without you, your generosity, events such as these would not be possible. Every one of us has the details of that horrible day in our minds. We can remember where we were, we can remember what time it was, and what we were doing. January 12, 2007 is where my story begins. I was 19. I had moved out of my parents' house 3 weeks prior to go to school in St. Pete. And to my parents' excitement, I started a new job so I could stop asking them for money. My dad was a sergeant for the Florida Patrol. He was on his 24th year. He was thinking of going into the drop. My mom and him were thinking of, now that I was out of the house, to start vacationing more, and we're planning a trip to Italy. At 3:30 p.m. that afternoon, he signed on for SOAR, for those who don't know, overtime. My dad witnessed a car cut off a semi-truck, and as he went to pull over that car, he didn't know that the driver was looking to kill a cop. It had come out throughout the day that anytime this gentleman, I wouldn't say gentleman, this person, saw a police officer, he said, if they get me, I'm gonna kill them. It just so happened that it was my dad. Dad made him put his hands up, of course, walked towards the car, passenger, got out of the car and ran to the orange groves. Didn't say anything to my dad. My dad walked up to the driver's side with his hand on his gun, talked to the driver, felt comfortable enough with the driver that he took his hand off his gun. The person brought his hands down, grabbed the gun, and shot my dad in his chest. It ended up hitting him in his clavicle artery, and he fell back so hard that in his autopsy, we knew that he hit his head on the road. Witnesses say that the driver tried to shoot my dad again while he laid on the road, but it wouldn't fire. I was heading into work when I got the call that my dad had been shot. I was told that he was fine, that my mom was with him, and that I needed to go to my apartment and wait for my brother, who was also FHP at that time, working in Tampa. And the moment I got that call, an image popped into my head of my dad sitting in a hospital room with his arm in a sling, eating vanilla ice cream. I don't know why, but that's what I got. I went back to my apartment to wait for my brother, and as I waited, I would get calls from my friends from home telling me that they were so sorry. I didn't know what they meant. I thought they just meant that my dad was shot, hurt, but they kept saying, "I'm so sorry," and to turn on the news. I would turn on the news, and I couldn't see anything. One of my friends actually went to the hospital, and as she's walking in with me on the phone, she's saying to someone, "It's Heather, I have Heather on the phone." And all I can hear is, "Tell her nothing, get off the phone." My brother shows up with an FHP sergeant behind him and told us that we need to wait at my apartment because they didn't know if they were flying my dad to Tampa or Orlando. So we wait in my apartment. I'm sitting on my futon. I was in college. My brother is pacing, and the sergeant is walking in and out of my place every time a call comes through his phone, and then trying to make small talk with me. Finally, at one point, my brother goes, "He's gone, isn't he?" From the moment you hear those horrible words, I regret to inform you, your life is shattered at that very moment. In reality, my dad had already died from internal bleeding when I got that first phone call. For some reason, though, my mind wouldn't let me escape from this overwhelming pain. If you talk to some survivors, they get this fog or this fuzziness. I never got that. I remember getting in the back seat of the patrol car and having to give directions to the sergeant because he had no idea how to get back to our little town of Lake Placid. I remember going through the toll booth and the toll booth operators waving through the cars in front of us, and me thinking, they're probably thinking that it's their lucky day that they don't have to pay their toll. I remember getting motion sickness from the patrol lights while I laid in the back of the seat and asking them to pull over, and I threw up in Wauchula. I remember getting stopped on 27. There was a manhunt, and they had shut down the entire northbound lane, and they were checking every car in the southbound lane. The police stopped our car, and all I heard our driver say is, "I have his kids." I can see his car on the side of the road with all the doors open and the little yellow tape things on the ground. I remember walking to our house full of people in search of my mom, and her first words were, "What do we do now? What do we do?" I see my dad lying in the hospital on the sheet, and hearing my mom cry in the shower every night, and knowing that I couldn't do anything to help her. I see the overwhelming pain etched in the faces of my dad's closest friends and colleagues as they carried his casket. With those memories, I also remember how awesome my dad was. He used to come eat lunch with me in elementary school, standing in a line in his uniform with a little tray, scooting it down, trying to slide into the picnic table with his gun belt. I remember him chaperoning every school dance I went to, and actually showed up once in his uniform, which made my dance partner magically disappear. I remember him coming home mad and yelling at my brother and I because he had to work a wreck that involved teenagers and alcohol, and he had to go tell parents about losing their children, and he was mad at us because we didn't do it yet, and he wanted us to know. Having family day outside, because if the day he was outside, we were outside. That was the rule. And more than anything, I remember his stories, his jokes, his laugh, his love for my mom, and his loyalty to his friends, and his ability to find something in common with anyone and make them his friend. His murder was caught a few days later. He was also 19 years old, had no warrants, no drugs, no alcohol. He just wanted to kill a cop. And my dad just happened to be the one who stopped him that day. His murderer pled guilty as evidence was overwhelming. He posted on MySpace that he got one. He went to a party and boasted about it and reenacted it. He had a friend help him get rid of his car. The jury voted in 9-3 in favor of the death penalty, and we were so close to being done with all of his appeals when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that our Florida death penalty was unconstitutional. And so now his death sentence has been overturned. We now have to have a new trial set, and we are now waiting for that time to start to do it all over again and just pray for a unanimous vote so that he can get the death sentence again. Thursday will be 16 years since my dad was murdered. It doesn't get any easier as time goes on. I miss out on having him for the big events in my life, like interrogating my husband when we first started dating, having him walk me down the aisle, having my father-daughter dance. Instead, his whole squad showed up and took their turns dancing with me at my wedding, which was amazing, but it wasn't my dad. And meeting my son. He's the screamer over there. But also to the little things like just family dinner nights, house improvements, I don't know what I'm doing, and just spending quality time together. If you take a look around the room, you will see the 38 fallen officers representing here tonight. We all have our own stories, our own memories, and we are all missing our loved ones. You being here tonight shows your support and lets us know that we are not forgotten, that they are not forgotten, and that our loved ones will forever be remembered. Thank you.